Hello, my name is Emma, and today I'm going to be giving you guys my full spoiler-filled review of Archenemies by Marissa Meyer. Renegades is an amazing young adult science fiction trilogy. It takes place in a world with superheroes and supervillains, and it is literally one of my new favorite series of all time. So if you want to hear more about the plot of Renegades or my thoughts on the first book in this series, you can check out my review in the description below. I loved Archenemies so much. I thought this was such a satisfying sequel that expanded upon the world that was built in Renegades in the most positive way. I loved watching this fantastic cast interact again. I was super happy with the direction of the political arc. Things get so intense and morally gray, and it was just a really exhilarating reading experience. So I also forgot to mention that I did read Archenemies twice, really close together. I read the arc before it came out, and then I listened to the audiobook after it was released because I just could not get enough of it. If I had to compare the two, I think I would say I prefer Renegades to its sequel, specifically because there's just more action in Renegades, and that's something I really love in books. I think they are both like equally fantastic. It's just that Archenemies is more focused on character dynamics and really like building the plot forward and expanding upon the political tensions in this story. But overall, it's an amazing sequel. If you have not read it yet, you should definitely pick it up. But I'm going to be jumping into all of my detailed, in-depth thoughts. So if you have not read Archenemies yet, you're gonna wanna go do that, go read it, and then come back and we can discuss it. But bye non-spoiler people. So one thing I just loved right off the bat about Archenemies is that it's one of the very few science fiction fantasy books that have a little bit of a discussion about mental health. The Renegades talk about having counselors provided for victims of crimes or the prodigies who later are affected by Agent N and have their powers taken away. And so I just thought it was really awesome that Marissa Meyer thought to include this aspect that is so frequently dismissed in science fiction fantasy. And honestly, I feel like these characters are the ones that really do need mental health attention. So I just really loved that inclusion throughout this entire novel. Something I was not expecting is that Adrian does not believe that Nightmare is dead from the explosion at the funhouse. He believes that she survived. I don't know why, I just like believed that he would go along with it like everyone else, but it really added another layer of conflict to the story that I greatly enjoyed. There were so many great lines all throughout the story that I'm gonna be hopping to and from throughout this review, but something I really love that Nova says in the beginning is sometimes Nova felt like the Renegades of the past had more in common with the Anarchists than anyone dared to admit. She's referring to how the Renegades stopped the Age of Anarchy and how they treated prodigies who didn't align with their values, and I just thought it was so brilliant. That's like a huge theme throughout the entire series, and I just really loved seeing that like expressed through her perspective as someone who's very critical of the Renegades. I just love the rich discussion she brings to the power dynamics of this world with the Renegades on top, specifically talking about how she feels that the Renegades have made citizens very lazy and they don't want to work for themselves. This is in the meeting when I think they're talking about how they don't have enough prodigy healers to help the sick, and that's really affecting the community. And so Nova thinks to herself, if prodigy healers weren't enough to cure the sick and injured, why didn't they just say that? Why didn't they encourage more civilians to study medicine? Why were the Renegades so determined to act as if they could save everyone when they knew perfectly well that they couldn't? And I also love how Nova really starts beginning to question herself and where her loyalties lies, where she says she had been a renegade that day, had she, when she made the decision to kill Ingrid, who was previously on her team, because she really wanted to work with the Renegades in that moment. And so I just really loved that moment for her character development. So also in this meeting, even though Nova figured it out in the previous book, it's revealed to all the Renegades that they have taken Max's abilities and have transformed it into a serum called Agent N that has the ability to take away Prodigy's powers forever. I talked a little bit about this in my Renegades review because obviously this is like such an abuse of power and a terrible, terrible thing for the Renegades to put into the hands of people, because it's obviously going to be abused by people like Frostbite and whatnot. You know, we Ben knew. But the thing that really unsettled me about this moment when it's being revealed is that the Renegades had already tested Agent N on 7 different prodigies who were arrested for who knows what. There's never any explanation, but they were already neutralized before like anyone in the Renegades had already talked about it, and like it just blew my mind. And on top of that, we have to witness it as they bring Winston, the puppeteer, on stage and take away his powers before everyone's eyes, and he just breaks down sobbing on stage because he will never have his powers again. I just can't subscribe to that, but apparently everyone except for like Adrian and Nova are completely cool with going along with it. There's two really great lines from both of them in reaction to this, where Adrian says, "Not everyone who disagrees with the code is a villain," and Nova says, "Once we have total power, what's to stop us from becoming villains ourselves?" And no one fucking listens to them. It feels almost analogous to the death penalty in America to me, in the way that it's like changing a person irreversibly forever based on their crimes is that just of us to do. It's not as bad because the Renegades aren't like, let's execute everyone who commits a crime. But the jarring part is that Agent N is able to be used without like a fair trial, and it can be used immediately just at a Renegade's discretion. Just something to think about. But along with the discussion of Agent N, another thing I really enjoyed is how Nova starts to consider how like she's super against the usage of Agent N, of course, but she thinks about the fact that she killed Ingrid and that was also irreversible. So like, what's the difference? And I just thought it added another really thought-provoking layer to Nova's character. So something really funny that occurred to me while reading Archenemies is that the entire time during Renegades, when Nova is like talking about how she lives with her uncle and like her uncle is at home and that's why like Adrian can't come over and she has to like skip out on stuff because of her uncle. I didn't realize this whole time that like her uncle is real and it's Ace Anarchy and she wasn't like just making it up. We've known from the prologue that Ace Anarchy is Nova's uncle, but I guess because he was dead it just didn't occur to me, and I just thought it was so funny when I realized it while reading. Obviously at the end of Renegades we find out that Ace Anarchy is actually alive, but what we find out in Archenemies is that Ace is actually dying. He is super weak from the end of the Age of Anarchy and he doesn't have his helmet to help his strength, and he is just super frail and like literally dying before their eyes, and that was like a hard pill to swallow. I like immediately thought that like things were gonna go into like planning mode, but it's actually much more difficult than that. Okay, honestly, I normally hate it when young adult characters always use their love interest's full name because I just feel like it doesn't occur a lot in real life, but like Nova could say Adrian Everhart a million times and I would not get sick of it. I get butterflies in my stomach every single time it comes up in the story. So on the next episode of The Renegades Are All Dumbasses, the vault that holds like all of this super powerful objects and machinery and what have you is not even like protected by security because they just don't believe that anyone could ever break in. They are so far up their own asses, it's not even comical. Like it just doesn't even seem like this is something that could actually happen in a society. They're just so pompous and they think so highly of themselves. Of course it's gonna be their downfall. What did they expect? So this subplot of Dana possibly putting the pieces together that Nova has some shady secrets just like shook me to my core throughout the entire story. From like that very first moment in the Renegades meeting when like someone is about to attack Hugh, I believe, and Dana recognizes that Nova sees it and she's the only one that sees it happening and doesn't do anything to stop it. From that moment forward, I was like, oh my god, like Dana is suspicious. And then going forward, when she like notes the fact that like she fainted when she was in the infirmary with just Nova and like she never faints, and just throughout the whole story I was just waiting for this to blow up in our faces, and it did. So I love, 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 love this vitality charm that's going on throughout the story. I love that Adrian discovers it and draws a tattoo of it on himself so he can hug Max for the first time without Max's abilities affecting him. That is the sweetest fucking thing I've ever read. I literally cried. And when Simon gets to hug Max the first time by wearing the charm, I just, tears everywhere, a mess. Oh, so we get to like my favorite Nova and Adrian scene ever, and it's when Nova goes over because she's trying to get the vitality charm for herself because she wants to bring it back to the anarchists to see if they can make an antidote for Agent N, and it just turns into like this super cute date that I was in love with. Adrian has transformed Room into a mural of Nova's dream that they've talked about, and I just love the moment when Nova responds and she's just like, all of this and the only name you could come up with was Sketch. I love them. They are so cute. And then we have this momentous occasion where Nova falls asleep. Like, I don't know if y'all remember, but like, Nova doesn't sleep. Max has said he had started suffering from some mild insomnia after Nova went into his quarantine. So like it was already confirmed that Max had taken some of Nova's powers, but we guess that like this is him affecting her as well because she can sleep again. And I just have to talk about this because I can't believe the publishers made this decision not to keep this in the book. So I have the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition of ARCHENEMIES, and it basically came with a short scene that was deleted from ARCHENEMIES. So like, I guess it's not considered canon anymore, but like I read it. If for some reason you don't want to hear what happened in the scene, you can just skip ahead to this time. But I have to talk about it. What happens is Nova, Adrian, and Max are all playing together, and Max accidentally puts Adrian to sleep. So Adrian and Max don't know what's going on and where this power came from, but Nova knows it's because Max took some of her powers, and she also has the ability to put people to sleep, but the Renegades only know that as Nightmare's power, and if they knew it was from Nova, they would know she was Nightmare. I just don't understand how they could delete that scene. That is so important and like fits so well with the story. It was so great. Why did they delete it, and how is it going to be handled in book 3? I'm overwhelmed. Something I really appreciated about ARCHENEMIES is how it really expands upon each of the Prodigy's powers. Like, it's not just like they were stated in Renegades, they're still transforming and changing, and we're getting more information about them. So for example, now we know that Nova has the ability to sleep, whether or not she actually needs to. We find out that when Dana is in her butterfly form, if all of her butterflies are separated, she can't reform back into a human, and like that's the whole thing behind her not being able to transform and tell people that she knows that Nova is an anarchist and Ace Anarchy is alive. And also with Adrian, we find out that the things that he draws cannot grow beyond what he has already created. So like if he draws a mini dinosaur named Turbo, he won't grow into a bigger dinosaur. And I just found that to be really interesting. I just really love it when authors are able to like clearly define the strengths and limitations of these different magic systems and abilities and worlds and whatnot, because it's necessary to create like a well-structured system, but I just don't think that they are always described enough in other books. So I just really appreciated that expansion in ARCHENEMIES. Also in this scene, Adrian asks Nova on like an official date to the gala, and it is just the cutest thing ever. Adrian and Nova's relationship just makes my heart melt. They're just so sweet. I think they have a fantastic dynamic, and I feel like they have like a very healthy relationship. I mean, other than the fact that they both have secret identities that happen to be each other's arch enemies, and the fact that Nova is like constantly trying to betray Adrian behind his back and like also tried to kill his dad, like I think they have a great relationship. I just love how slowly their relationship is built. I love the resistance that Nova put up at first and how she is like slowly allowing herself to want Adrian a little bit more, and the fact that Adrian is like unapologetically interested in Nova and is trying to be honest and genuine about it. It's just so sweet and so refreshing to read. I just think their relationship is a great mixture of all of these like super angsty YA tropes that I love, but also these like refreshing, more healthy, structured, and mature relationships. Adrian and Nova kiss for the first time, and I am just like swooning all over the place, like yes, cheering for my babies. And then what does Nova do but put him to sleep? She puts him to sleep so she can go search his house for the vitality charm, and I'm like, Nova, no! I'm put in such a difficult situation because I love Adrian and Nova together so much. I ship them so hard, and I just want them to be together forever without any problems. So naturally, I want Nova to stop being as distant and to stop harming Adrian in these ways that like he doesn't even know because she has this secret agenda. But the other part of me is like, I don't want Nova throwing away this mission she's dedicated her life to just for a boy. I want her to do what she feels that she has to do in her heart. But those two things just completely conflict, and it makes me so anxious. So the ending of this book, from like the gala onward, is so unbelievable. unbelievable. I don't even know where to start. The only general thing I can say is Marissa Meyer knows how to write an ending. Oh, before I jump into that, the one thing I have to mention that I really had struggled with throughout this book is how obvious Nova is about her interest in Ace Anarchy's helmet. Oh my god, every 5 seconds she's trying to bring it up and she's making it so obvious that like she wants more information. Like, I swear this is episode 2 of All the Renegades Are Dumbasses because she made it so obvious. Every time Nova opened her mouth to ask someone about the helmet, I was just like, shh, shh, don't talk. I adore Nova with all my heart, but I don't know how it took her this long to get caught. So of course, the anarchists are using Miguela as Nova's opportunity to break into the vault and steal Ace Anarchy's helmet so that Ace can restore to his full power and they can really start to dismantle the renegades. I found it so intriguing that the reason that Nova is able to break into the chromium box that's holding Ace's helmet is because the star that Adrian drew Nova, that's now in her bracelet, added to the power of the spear and like allowed it to break through. Clearly it was intentionally left vague and we like don't know why this happened or how or anything. I'm confident it's gonna be resolved in book 3, but I'm really interested to see like how this extra power that Nova currently has is going to play into it, how much of it is going to take down the renegades. Like, I think it's gonna be an awesome addition in book 3. Oh my god, and Ruby and Oscar find out that Adrian is the Sentinel and his secret is out to them, and Oscar is like super pissed at Adrian because he is the reason that Dana got hurt before. 2 things: 1, Adrian kind of deserved that, and 2, I also think Oscar and Ruby are so cute together and I really hope everything works out for them in book 3 because I'm gonna be so upset if one of them dies. Then Adrian, Oscar, and Ruby are following Dana's butterfly that has been like trying to get Adrian to recognize like what's going on with Ace and Nova and whatnot because one of her butterflies is trapped with the anarchists. And so they meet Ace Anarchy and know he's alive now. It was too close for comfort. So back to Nova stealing Ace's helmet. Obviously, of course, she gets caught, and she's caught by none other than Frostbite and Gargoyle and like the worst of the worst renegades. So they threaten to use Agent N on her and they're like super close to using it on her, but she at least has the vitality charm to protect her. So she releases the Agent N bonds that Leroy had made and neutralizes Gargoyle so he is no longer a prodigy. So then Frostbite tries to stab Nova, but instead she stabs Max, who is trying to stop Nova himself, and just the chromium spear is like stabbed through his chest. That was so incredibly shocking. Like, Max is so innocent and has never done anything wrong, and he is put in this extremely horrible situation where he might actually die. Like, he's in critical condition at the end of the novel and we don't know what happens to him. And so people are saying that Nightmare is the one who tried to kill Max, even though she was the one trying to save him. And it just puts us in this incredibly difficult situation for book 3 because, like, even if like Adrian would have been okay with like Nightmare and Nova being the same person, like if he finds out, I don't know how he would ever get past it if he believes that Nova is the reason that Max gets this hurt and possibly dies. Now, I personally don't think Max is going to die. Like, my brain is just like, she wouldn't leave this off on a cliffhanger if he wasn't eventually going to be okay. She would have just killed him at the end. But then I'm also psyching myself out and I'm like, well, what if that's what Marissa Meyer wants us to think and she's actually going to kill him? And I don't know how to feel, but all I know is that I am distraught waiting to find out what happens to Max and Ace, because now Ace is in captivity by the renegades and they're gonna neutralize him, and I don't know how to feel going into book 3. I just don't know how things are gonna go. I don't know how they're gonna save Ace. I don't know how they're gonna save Max. I don't know what's gonna happen between Adrian and Nova. Like, I'm honestly shocked Adrian doesn't know by this point, but obviously he's gonna have to find out in book 3, and I don't know how Nova and Adrian are going to get past each other's secret identities. I am just at a loss. So that concludes my review of Arch Enemies. I clearly loved this book so much. I think it was such a satisfying sequel, and I think it has just set up for an even better conclusion to come. Marissa Meyer is just so talented. She's one of my absolute favorite authors. I think she's done a fantastic, fantastic job with creating such a rich world with amazing characters and this incredible plot and political arc. It is just all around fantastic and one of my favorite series of all time, so I would love to know your thoughts on Archenemies in the comments below. But that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you soon for a new one. Bye!